I was mocked as the deaf loser of the family for years. I went no contact, quietly built a secure life, and they're furious I'm protecting my daughter. Parents told everyone I'm the loser of this family. But years later, we meet again and they can't believe my wife, who's 35, and I, 36, live on the other side of the country from my family. We only visit them for weddings, funerals, or other significant family events. My wife and I are both deaf, which has affected our relationship with my family over the years. Growing up, my family never really made an effort to understand me or connect with me on a deeper level. They did the basics like feeding me, clothing me, and making small talk. But they didn't try to build any meaningful relationships. They didn't even try to learn sign language to communicate with me better. As a result, I had to learn to read lips and talk just to keep up with them. But I often felt left out because I couldn't fully follow their conversations. They didn't take the time to get to know my wife either, and we've both felt distant from them for as long as I can remember. My family thinks that just because we're deaf, we're not smart enough or capable of doing things for ourselves. They still treat us like little kids even though we're in our 30s. This has been incredibly frustrating for my wife, who stopped visiting them entirely back in 2017 because of the way they treat us. Despite our challenges with them, we've managed to build successful careers and have been fully independent since we graduated college. We've saved up a good amount of money, enjoyed traveling, and are even considering buying a nice house. We're just waiting for the housing market to settle down a bit before making that big move. But even with all of this success, my family still holds on to the belief that my wife's family is somehow taking care of us financially, and that we can't handle things on our own. They don't realize that we handle everything ourselves, from managing our finances to going grocery shopping and paying bills. We're fully capable and have been doing well all on our own, but they can't seem to understand or accept that. It's frustrating and disappointing because we've worked so hard to build a stable and happy life. But my family refuses to see us as intelligent, competent people who have overcome our challenges and done well for ourselves. They just can't seem to look past our disability and recognize us for who we really are, and that hurts. I have an older brother who's not deaf, and he's really close with my family. The problem is that he doesn't have his life together at all. He just works odd jobs, hops from one unstable relationship to another, and is always trying to mooch off others. Despite all of this, my family still treats him like he's got everything figured out. He's a total narcissist and has always looked down on me, but my family lets him get away with it. They continue to praise him and brush off his bad behavior. This is one of the main reasons I keep them all at arm's length. Now here's the bigger issue. My wife and I have a toddler daughter, and when my wife was pregnant, we decided not to include my family in our daughter's life. They wouldn't respect us as her parents and would treat her poorly if she turned out to be deaf too. We didn't want her to be around people who constantly look down on her parents, so it seemed like a healthy boundary to set. None of my family members regularly reach out to me anyway, so I didn't see a point in giving them any information about my daughter. We also keep her off social media and limit how much we share about her. I've only visited my family once since she was born, and I left her at home with my wife. A few weeks ago, my brother found out that I have a daughter, and now the whole family is really upset. They blame my wife for keeping my daughter away from them, thinking she somehow controls me, which isn't true at all. They also accuse me of denying my daughter a big family that could have helped raise her in different ways. I've started to wonder if they might be right. Maybe my wife and I are being selfish by keeping her away from a family that includes cousins her age. But I also know how my family treats us, and it's hard to imagine them treating my daughter with the love and kindness she deserves. So while I want to believe that a big family could be good for her, I'm not sure it's worth the risk of her being exposed to their disrespectful behavior toward us. Am I the idiot? Now for the top comments. Not the idiot. I think you made the right decision. They don't seem worth keeping in contact with. I'm struggling to understand how they're so dense. They don't realize you're a smart and capable person. So often I think people get the view that deaf people are mentally deficient because they never have any, but they have known you your whole life and still don't get it, even with the perfect comparison of your brother. Strange. My parents like this with my brother and me, but I'm not deaf. I have autism. They treat me like I'm an idiot who can't do anything, while my brother, who messed around all through school and life, is the revered golden child. It's insane. I spent my life trying to get them to like me, but they never will. I had to cut them off, and I've never been happier. OP, keep your daughter away from people who might hurt her, and go no contact correctly this time. Your family is ableist, and they would affect your daughter in a toxic way with it. I'm a little worried from the way you described your family. They treat you and your wife as if you were incapable of discernment and of being legally autonomous. Your tale gives me bad vibes. Now that they know you have a daughter, I would take steps to protect her, like warning the kindergarten, daycare, and in future the school that they are not allowed to pick up your daughter. That's what I said too. Talking to a lawyer to be prepared if they go the CPS route and making sure no caretaker will release her to them could be important. Then, wanting to raise her differently and thinking OP and his wife can't take care of themselves is alarming. Their lives would speak for themselves. It would be funny if they did go to court with details of OP and his wife's incompetence, and then OP lays out their lives. Then they would look like the fools they are and dash any hopes of any visitation in the future. But I agree. Document everything and ensure all your affairs are in order. Story 2. I was married to my ex-wife for 9 years, but our relationship started way before that. We were childhood sweethearts, and by the time high school was over, we couldn't imagine being apart, so we got married right out of high school and soon had 2 beautiful children together. It was one of those storybook relationships, at least for a while. Everything seemed to be going well. We were both happy, and I thought life was on track. Eventually, we decided 2 kids were enough. We didn't want to grow our family any further. We were content, and I even took a big step by getting a vasectomy to make sure that we wouldn't have any more children. Life went on like usual with the ups and downs that every family faces, but it still felt like a solid, happy home. That was until my wife suddenly told me she was pregnant for the 3rd time. I was stunned and confused because, as far as I knew, I shouldn't have been able to have any more kids after the vasectomy. To make sure everything was right, I went to the doctor to double-check, and he confirmed that there was no way I could have fathered that child. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. My wife finally confessed that she had been having an affair. She told me she didn't want our marriage to end, but I couldn't stay with her after such a betrayal. Trust was shattered, and I made it clear that I wasn't going to raise a child that wasn't mine, especially given the circumstances. We separated, and she moved in with the man she had been seeing, who was the father of her 3rd child. Not long after our divorce was finalized, she got engaged to him and had another child. But just to be absolutely certain that the 3rd child wasn't mine, I paid for a DNA test, which confirmed that I wasn't the father. I was relieved in some ways, but angry in others, thinking about how she had jeopardized our family. In the aftermath of the divorce, people started pressuring me to step up and help with her 2 other children, saying that I should be a father figure to them since I was already a dad to her 2 older kids. I flat out refused, saying there was no way I'd take on that role. Her 2 younger children weren't my responsibility. I knew that I would never turn my back on my own kids, and I remained dedicated to our 2 older children, but I felt no obligation to her other children. My ex-wife struggled financially after the other man left her with nothing. She only had her mom and sister to rely on. Despite the situation, she repeatedly pleaded with me over the next few years to be more involved in the lives of her 2 younger kids because they didn't have any active male role models around. I understand her reasoning. She wanted them to have a positive presence in their lives, but I was firm in my refusal. It wasn't my role to be that person for them. My focus was solely on our 2 older children, making sure they had all the love, support, and attention they needed from their father. I know it's tough for her, and it's probably not what she imagined, but that's not my fault. Our paths diverged after her infidelity, and while I hope she finds stability and support for her children, it's not something I'm going to provide. My priority is to always be there for my kids, the 2 I had with her, and ensure they have everything they need to grow up happy and well-rounded. I try not to dwell too much on those kids unless I absolutely have to. Like when I know I'll be around them and want to make sure I don't come across as a jerk. After all, they're my boys' siblings. The older of the 2 is having a birthday soon, and my ex-wife asked if I could pitch in with some gifts and show up at the party to make the day special, but I said no. I felt it was my ex's job to take care of that. Now her mom and sister are on my case, saying I'm not being a good role model for my boys and that I should show them what a real man and father are like. They argue that I'm damaging my boys by not showing them how to be compassionate and loving toward their half-siblings. They also say I'm causing a divide by allowing my boys to call them half-siblings instead of just siblings. They believe the 2 younger kids have very little compared to my boys, who are growing up with more stuff, better family quality time, and great experiences, and they're worried this will become more obvious as the older of the 2 gets to the age where they'll start noticing these things more. But I'm not convinced that this is my responsibility, so I push back. My ex caught wind of this argument with her mom and sister and called me an idiot for punishing our kids instead of her. Honestly, it's tough to hear those criticisms, but I firmly believe that I'm doing what's best for my own children. I'm not going to let my ex's family guilt trip me into a role I don't want or feel is fair. My priority will always be the 2 kids we had together, and I want to make sure they grow up knowing that their dad has their back. Am I the idiot? Now for the top comments. Not the idiot. She was unfaithful, and now expects you to pick up the pieces? That's comical. Look after your biological sons and yourself. She got herself into this mess, no one else. Once your kids are older, you can explain what happened and why things seem different for their siblings. But for now, you're great to your kids. Why are they punishing the man taking care of his kids instead of the one who bailed? They should invest their energy in hounding the kid's actual father for child support, but no. Let's try to take advantage of the guy she betrayed. What is it with cheaters wanting everyone to play happy families with their affair kids? Talk about having your cake and eating it too. The money you spend on kids that aren't yours is money you can't spend on your kids. This sucks for the two younger kids who've done nothing wrong, but that's something their mother should have considered before cheating on you. Story 3. My husband and I are super excited because we're expecting our first baby. We're planning to move back to my home country after the birth because it's just way cheaper there to raise a child. But in the meantime, I know this means my mother-in-law won't be able to see her son and future grandchild as much once we leave. So to make sure she doesn't feel too left out, I've tried to include her in this special time. I let her come to our doctor appointments, see the ultrasound photos, and even be part of other big pregnancy milestones, like shopping for baby clothes and decorating the nursery. One day she asked when she could throw us a gender reveal party. Now where I'm from, gender reveals aren't really a thing. Plus, if I'm honest, the whole idea makes me uncomfortable, especially because some of my husband's family members are kind of weirdly obsessed with the idea of having boys over girls. So I told her that I really appreciated her offer, but I would prefer not to have one. I suggested that instead she could organize a bigger baby shower if she wanted to. She didn't really understand my perspective, but she didn't push back too hard at first, so I thought she was okay with it. Last Thursday, we went to a doctor's appointment together since my husband was at work. Everything was going fine until the doctor asked if I wanted to know the baby's gender. I said yes, but before the doctor could answer, my mother-in-law interrupted and asked the doctor to put the result in an envelope so she could give it to the person planning the gender reveal party. I was a little taken aback but calmly said no, and asked the doctor to just tell us then and there. My mother-in-law started getting really impatient and insisted that it wouldn't be a big deal to let her have this one thing. I reminded her that we could still have a bigger baby shower instead, but I didn't want to do a gender reveal. Despite my efforts to be kind but firm, she stormed out of the appointment in tears. Later, my husband called me to ask what had happened because his mom had called him crying, saying I'd been horrible to her. I explained everything to him, and he said he understood and wasn't a fan of gender reveals either. However, he still thought we should consider just going along with it since his mom was so upset. The whole idea of doing the whole ballerina or truck strap reveal makes me feel so uncomfortable. It's supposed to be a special moment for us, and it doesn't feel right to do something we're not comfortable with just because she's sad. But I keep reminding myself that we're going to be leaving soon anyway. Once we're in my home country, she won't have much say in how we handle these things. I'm trying to focus on the fact that everything will eventually work out, even if it's a little tough now. So am I the idiot for refusing a gender reveal? Now for the comments? Not very. The doctor asked you if you wanted to know the gender of the baby. As the mother, that's your damn decision. Mother-in-law, mind your damn business. And your husband is gutless, wanting to play along with her. You should be standing up for you and telling his mommy to mind her business. Your mother-in-law is being way manipulative. Stick to your no. Being pregnant looks uncomfortable enough without adding unnecessary discomfort. If she keeps it up, try crying and asking why she's so mean. 4 bonus points. Burst into an ugly crying, sobbing fit next time she brings it up in front of other people. This will make you as bad as her, but it may be worth it. Yes, use those pregnancy hormones to your advantage. Ugly cry and ask her why she's so mean to a pregnant lady. Don't you know stress is bad for the baby? Why do you want to hurt your grandchild by stressing me out while they are inside me? And make sure hubby has a front seat so he can see just what a manipulative idiot mommy is being. Story 4. So it was my nephew's birthday, and the whole family had decided to celebrate with a dinner at the Outback Steakhouse. This restaurant is known for its steaks and other hearty dishes. My daughter, who has autism, was coming along with us, and I knew she had a lot of sensitivities to different foods. Some foods upset her stomach, while others she just doesn't like. Because of this, she's super picky about what she eats. A few days before the dinner, I looked up the restaurant's menu online to see what they offered. I wanted to find something my daughter could eat so she wouldn't feel left out. I asked her if there was anything she would like from the menu, but she checked too and couldn't find a single thing that suited her. She then asked if she could just bring her own food instead. I thought that was a reasonable idea, so I told her she could, but asked her to keep it simple so it wouldn't cause a scene. She agreed and said she would make herself a sandwich with hummus and pesto and bring along some apple slices as a snack. The day of the dinner, we all got dressed up and headed out to the restaurant. Before leaving, I packed her sandwich and apples into some Ziploc bags and put them in my purse. When we arrived at the restaurant, the waiter showed us to our table, and we all started off by ordering drinks. I ordered a Coke because I was in the mood for something fizzy, and my daughter ordered an Arnold Palmer. If you haven't heard of it before, it's a mix of iced tea and lemonade, and it's her favorite drink. When it was time to order our meals, I decided to get a steakhouse salad for myself because I love their salads. I also asked the waiter if he could bring an extra empty plate for me. When he asked my daughter what she wanted to eat, she politely and quietly declined to order anything, just shaking her head. She was so calm about it that nobody at the table seemed to notice she wasn't ordering any food. Soon after our meals came out and everyone was digging in, I quickly took my daughter's sandwich and apple slices out of my purse, put them on the extra plate I had asked for, and slid it over to her. She ate from the restaurant's plate, so it blended in perfectly, and it was hardly noticeable that she wasn't eating the same food as the rest of us. However, my sister noticed what I was doing and got really mad. She felt like I should have made my daughter try the restaurant's food like everyone else. She whispered to me sharply to order something for my daughter instead of letting her eat her own food. I calmly replied that my daughter was fine with what she had and didn't need anything else. My sister didn't like that answer and got even louder, drawing the attention of everyone at the table. The other people eating nearby started looking over at us too, which made the whole situation pretty embarrassing. I tried to stay calm and keep my sister from making a scene, but she went on about how it was rude to bring outside food to a restaurant. I explained that it wasn't about being rude, but that my daughter just couldn't eat anything on the menu because of her food sensitivities. Despite my explanation, my sister continued arguing, so I just turned back to my daughter and made sure she was okay. We quietly ate our food while the others were still giving us awkward looks. Eventually, the rest of the family tried to steer the conversation back to celebrating my nephew's birthday, and things finally settled down. But for the rest of the meal, I could feel my sister's frustration simmering across the table. We all finished eating, had dessert, and then said our goodbyes. Although the dinner was a little awkward, at least my daughter was happy with her meal and didn't have any stomach issues afterward. When my sister started raising her voice and drawing everyone's attention to our table, I tried to change the topic and lighten the mood. I asked my brother-in-law's mom about her garden because she's always so passionate about her plants and flowers. I thought maybe talking about something pleasant would calm things down, but my sister only got louder. She told me to stop causing a scene and insisted that this was her son's special day, not my daughter's. She was upset that my daughter was eating her own food instead of ordering from the menu. My sister said I needed to stop acting like the world revolved around my daughter and that she wasn't going to let my daughter steal the spotlight on her son's big day. Her face turned beet red as she continued to rant, and her volume was so high that a waitress came over and asked us to keep it down because we were disturbing the other tables around us. Feeling embarrassed and realizing things weren't going to calm down anytime soon, I decided to collect my daughter and quietly leave the restaurant. After we left, my phone buzzed repeatedly with notifications. My sister had sent me several text messages full of harsh words, along with a Venmo request for $150. She insisted I should pay her because of the trouble I'd caused and because I hadn't ordered enough food. I hadn't even eaten much of my salad, and with only 2 soft drinks, I knew our bill couldn't have been $150. Still, I wanted to smooth things over a little, so I sent her $120, but that wasn't enough to satisfy her, and she was still mad as heck. Later on, my brother reached out and tried to explain the situation from my sister's point of view. He told me that she was tired of the attention my daughter always seemed to get and felt like there was always something happening with her. While he acknowledged that my sister had overreacted at the dinner, he thought that I had been the one to stir things up by bringing my daughter along. According to him, I should have just left her at home if she couldn't handle being in a restaurant. But from my perspective, my daughter had done just fine at the restaurant. She hadn't made a scene or drawn attention to herself at all. She was eating her sandwich calmly and quietly, just like we had planned. She hadn't needed anything from the menu, and her bringing her own food should have been perfectly okay, so why couldn't everyone just eat their food and ignore my daughter's? Now for the comments. Not the idiot. It wasn't a scene until your sister made a scene and she sounds unhinged. You literally did nothing wrong or anything to steal the spotlight from your nephew. Your sister did that all on her own. You and your daughter found an unobtrusive way for her to be involved in a family outing. Kudos to you for that. If the restaurant didn't have an issue with you bringing outside food, I don't understand your sister's reaction. Wow. Just wow. Mom, kudos to you for handling this in a great way. Your sister, on the other hand, well, It wasn't about her son, it was about herself and control, putting on a show for everyone else. Not sure how old your daughter and nephew are, but neither need to be exposed to this toxicity at any age. Everyone's the idiot here. I'm wondering if we're missing some info. That's a way over-the-top reaction to something. Does nephew get overshadowed at other family gatherings? Was your invite a pressure invite from your family to your parents? Spent equal time on both kids? OP may not even know that it's happening. Your parents may be unintentionally doing this, and it's easier for your sister to blame you. It's worth a calm and grown-up discussion about why she lost her story. Story 5. Entitled, Sil Wants Custody of My Baby. So my sister-in-law has been admitted to a psychiatric facility. In the comments of my previous post, I mentioned that her husband was seeking out counseling for them to deal with the infertility prior to this incident. After the incident, he sought out a psychiatrist rather than a counselor, and they had their first session last week. I didn't get the specifics of what happened, but basically she made some statements that the psychiatrist felt indicated she was a danger to others, my baby and me, and she was placed under an involuntary hold. My Bill has been nothing but apologetic through this entire ordeal, and he kept her away from us since the incident. My Mill was staying with them to keep an eye on Sil. She tried to leave the house in the middle of the night to see her baby. Also, Bill found her researching how to induce lactation, and she said it was to make sure she can feed the baby properly when I come to my senses and give her up. From what Bill has said, seeing me breastfeed is apparently what triggered the entire episode. It was the first time Sil was around the baby for any length of time, and she was holding her when she got fussy because she was hungry. Naturally, I took her to feed her, and this made Sil feel inadequate because it triggered the thought that she would never be able to do that, which led to the events of the last post. I'm grateful for all the advice that was offered on my last post, as some of it was really helpful. We won't be moving as it's not feasible for us at the moment, but we have taken extra steps with security, both at home and at the kids' school daycare. This whole thing is taking a toll on the family, but my Mill, Phil, and Bill are taking care of Sil, and my husband and I are focused on ensuring the safety of our immediate family and minimizing the effect on the kids as much as we can.